U.S. Capitol attack fugitive seeks asylum in Canada and hopes for Trump pardon Anthony Vo, 32, convicted over January 6 riot, was supposed to begin 9-month prison term, but instead fled to Canada. An American man who absconded after being sentenced to prison for his role in the U.S. Capitol riot is now seeking political asylum in Canada, as he hopes for a pardon when Donald Trump returns to the White House. Anthony Vo, 32, was sentenced to 9 months behind bars and ordered to report to a federal prison on June 14, 2024, but instead he fled to Canada. More than 1,500 people have been charged in connection with the January 6 assault on Congress, which sought to disrupt certification of Joe Biden's election victory. Vo, from Indiana, was convicted at a jury trial in Washington of 4 counts of entering a restricted building and disorderly conduct related to his actions. I knew Canada has a history of being welcoming to refugees, from Vietnam War draft dodgers to the people who hid Edward Snowden in Hong Kong, he told AFP. So I packed up my snowboarding gear and drove across the border. In refugee claim documents, Vo said the riot was a peaceful protest that was subverted as part of a domestic regime change operation to politically assassinate Trump and his supporters. The assault on the Capitol followed a fiery speech by then-President Trump to tens of thousands of his supporters near the White House, in which he repeated his false claims that he won the 2020 vote. More than 140 police officers were injured in hours of clashes, with rioters wielding flagpoles, baseball bats, hockey sticks, and other makeshift weapons, along with tasers and canisters of bear spray. Vo insisted that he saw no violence. Images on social media showed Vo and his mother Annie, who fled Vietnam in 1991 and was granted asylum in the United States, smiling inside the Capitol that day. She was arrested in March and is awaiting trial. Vo said he hopes to stay in Canada until the situation is safe for me to return to the United States. When Donald Trump takes office, I hope he pardons me and the rest of the January 6 protesters. Trump has called the rioters patriots and political prisoners and told a CNN town hall that he was inclined to pardon many of them. Several Capitol riot defendants have seized upon Trump's election victory over Kamala Harris to ask that their trials or sentencing be put on hold. Trump himself, who takes office again in January, was charged with conspiring to overturn the results of the 2020 election. But the case never made it to trial and is now being wound down under the Justice Department's policy of not prosecuting a sitting president. Vo said that he had also tried to seek asylum in Argentina, Mexico, El Salvador, Vietnam, Belarus, and Russia. I seriously explored getting paramotoring lessons and then paramotoring from Key West to Cuba to seek asylum there too, he said in his claim. Vo said that in Canada, people have really taken good care of me. Assad's downfall could trigger a crisis for Tehran. The fall of Aleppo to rebels opposing President Bashar al-Assad has caused a critical situation for the Syrian government, with implications that may extend to the Islamic Republic of Iran. Opposition forces have now advanced towards the outskirts of Hama and Homs, 2 strategic Syrian cities on the road to Damascus. The potential fall of Damascus and the overthrow of the Assad government is more serious than ever, causing deep concerns for the Islamic Republic and its leader, Ali Khamenei. The collapse of Assad's rule would dismantle a cornerstone of Iran's regional strategy against Israel. It would also threaten the survival of Iran's proxy groups, which rely heavily on Damascus for support. Without Assad's backing, these groups could struggle to sustain their operations, jeopardizing the Islamic Republic's influence in the region. For Khamenei and Iran's Revolutionary Guards (IRGC), Assad's government is a vital pillar of the so-called axis of resistance. Its potential fall could even endanger the stability of the Islamic Republic itself. The coming days are pivotal for both Assad's government and Iran. The defeat in Aleppo dealt a major blow to the morale of the Syrian army and government. But the greater concern for Assad and the Islamic Republic is the possibility of opposition forces advancing toward Damascus after consolidating their power in the north and toppling the government. The opposition forces now control Aleppo and Idlib near Turkey's borders and are rapidly advancing in Hama and Homs governorates, with reports that they are at the gates of the provincial capitals. Capturing the cities of Hama and Homs would give them a strategic advantage, potentially allowing a push toward Latakia, the Assad family's power base. or Damascus, the situation today is starkly different from 2016, when Assad, with robust support from Russia, Hezbollah, and Iran, defeated opposition forces in the Battle of Aleppo. Several factors have contributed to the weakening of the Assad government and its supporters. Russia's involvement in Ukraine. Russia, a key ally of Damascus, is preoccupied with the war in Ukraine, limiting its ability to provide military support compared to 2016. Hezbollah's diminished sway. Iran-backed Hezbollah, a powerful armed ally of Damascus, has suffered significant losses in its conflict with Israel and faces domestic pressure in Lebanon to reduce its involvement in regional conflicts. Iran's economic constraints. Tehran's financial woes, made worse by U.S. sanctions, have restricted its ability to provide financial and military aid to the Assad government. According to estimates, Tehran has spent tens of billions of dollars in Syria, but now finds it hard to continue such support. Erosion of the IRGC's manpower and logistics in Syria. Key IRGC commanders, including former chief of IRG's extraterritorial Quds Force Qasem Soleimani, have been killed in recent years, and the replacement forces do not have the same capabilities. Additionally, proxy groups such as the Afghan Fatimiyan Division, Iraq's Popular Mobilization Forces, PMF, are less effective than before. If Assad falls, Iran's regional foreign policy could face a severe crisis. Damascus plays a crucial role in facilitating the transport of weapons, logistics, and financial support to Iran's proxy groups. Its collapse would likely lead to disruption of weapons transfers to Hezbollah via Damascus and Latakia airports, reduced support for Palestinian groups such as Hamas and the Islamic Jihad, destruction of smuggling networks for arms and narcotics into Jordan and the West Bank for Iran. Preserving Assad's government is a matter of strategic survival, while Khamenei and the IRGC are likely to make every effort to prevent its collapse. Their resources and influence are far weaker than in the past. Ultimately, Assad's fall could dismantle the axis of resistance and pose a serious threat to the Islamic Republic's future. Economic recession fuels labor protests as energy crisis looms in Iran. Protests are intensifying across Iran as workers demand better wages and improved working conditions amidst the country's financial crisis and energy shortages. That on Tuesday, refinery workers at the South Pars gas complex in Asylum, a nerve center for Iran's natural gas production on the Persian Gulf, gathered to address grievances tied to delayed wage payments and unsatisfactory economic conditions. Simultaneously, retired educators rallied outside the presidential office in Tehran, continuing demonstrations that have become frequent in recent months. Protesters voiced their frustrations, with banners highlighting the disparity between Iran's resource wealth and their economic hardships. They chanted slogans including, "Iran, a land of wealth, what has become of you?" as around one-third of Iranians now live below the poverty line. The oil and gas sector has increasingly replaced regular employees with contract workers, exposing them to precarious conditions and inadequate wages. Workers not only seek immediate improvements in pay, but are also advocating for better dormitory accommodation and workplace safety measures. Tuesday's protests hold significant importance as workers from 12 refineries within the Pars gas complex united, demonstrating a powerful display of solidarity against the authorities. Sattar Rahmani, a workers' activist, told Iran International TV on Tuesday, while permanent employees struggle with minimal facilities, contractors face even harsher conditions, grappling with uncertainty about their future employment. He added, "The lack of a dependable and robust union to advocate for their rights exacerbates their plight, leaving them vulnerable and under immense pressure." Nurses and healthcare workers have also been staging protests, including a large-scale strike in August involving around 50 cities and 70 hospitals. Their demands include higher wages, updated nursing tariffs, overtime pay, and the fulfillment of welfare benefits. Despite their consistent efforts, their grievances remain largely unaddressed due to the government's significant budget deficit, estimated to exceed 50%. Many Iranian workers survive on monthly incomes of approximately $200, not even meeting the daily cost of living. Iran has seen a surge in labor protests, with 428 recorded between April 2023 and April 2024, according to the human rights activist news agency, Hrana. Workers are grappling with issues such as delayed wage payments, low salaries, arbitrary layoffs, and privatization's adverse effects. Adding to these challenges, Iran is facing a severe energy crisis. This summer, the country endured power outages that halved industrial electricity supplies and caused widespread blackouts. Now, warnings of a severe gas shortage this winter have raised alarms. Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf urged immediate measures to mitigate the crisis during a review of seasonal power and fuel shortages that Iran's natural gas production growth has slowed significantly, mainly due to the aging South Pars gas field, responsible for 75% of the country's output. Natural declines, coupled with sanctions restricting access to advanced technology, have exacerbated the situation. The production growth rate over the past 3 years is now a third of the pace seen in the previous decade.